And welcome back to Carmi IL. I'm your host, Denton Weiss. As always, I've got Skylar in the studio. Today's guest is Clint Taylor from Taylor Eye Care, and today's show sponsor is Rally Point Events. Sure you've heard of them in the past. They brought to us the Boots, Bulls, and Country Music. When was that? Last month? It's either last month or the month before. Their next show will be Saturday, September 18th. They're having a show called Big Wheels on Little Wabash. We've put the graphic on the screen if you want to screenshot it. It will be at the White County Fairgrounds. It's going to feature monster truck action and a mini tractor pull, both presented by CarQuest, and an Extreme Pro quad racing, which is four-wheeler racing, I guess. That'll be presented by the Fairfield Memorial Hospital. Again, that is Saturday, September 18th. Mini tractor pull starts at 1 p.m. Monster trucks start at 5 p.m. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming the quad racing will kind of take place in between all the monster truck heats. You can purchase tickets online and save $5 if you do so. So they're $20 if you buy them online. If you wait to get your tickets at the gate, they'll be $25. Kids 8 and under are free, which is awesome. And to buy those tickets, you will visit carmimonstertruck.com for tickets and info. Be right back. Welcome back. I don't even know what episode this is. We quit counting.
I want to say it's like 14, maybe.
14.
Somewhere in there.
Well, we're still going strong then. My guest today is Clint Taylor from Taylor Eye Care. How are you, Clint?
I'm good. I'm honored to be in the top 15 of the guests that you've invited to be here.
You made it.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
Well, and as we're recording this, it is 90 degrees. So if you're wondering why I'm beaded up with sweat and our guest and Skylar as well, it's just because it is miserably hot. But I asked Clint before we started if he had to get out of here at a certain time, and he said the longer he stays here, the cooler it's going to be when he goes home to mow his yard. I'm not going to mow my yard today. It's too hot.
Yeah, same.
So, Clint, you have 3 kids, right?
I do.
Any of them think will be interested in this monster truck deal?
This has my son Jack written all over it. He's 7, and he loves things that are loud. I'm looking at like the flames on the side of the truck. I mean, that's up his alley. Right up his alley.
Yeah, Huck, my boy, I've got 2 kids. Finley's 6. She will take her, but she won't like it as much as Huck will. He's 3. He'll be 4 October, but he's the same way. 4-wheelers, trucks, tractors. I mean, that's the trifecta as far as I'm concerned. So we'll definitely take him. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But the 8 and under deal, I think, is huge. I bet you there's going to be a lot of people here for this. So.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not 90 degrees that day. It'd be nice, but
yeah.
So I guess my first question is where did you go to school to become an eye doctor?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I just wanted to say thanks for having me. And I think it's so cool, that you guys have this podcast here in Carmi. So I just want to thank you guys for that and recognize that.
Appreciate it.
So I went to McKendree College for my undergrad. I got my biology degree. And from there, I went on to Indiana University in Bloomington, Hoosiers, go Hoosiers, and went to optometry school. So I had 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of graduate school. And most of the people in optometry school get some sort of science-based undergraduate degree. It could be chemistry. Mine was in biology, but it's something like that because that's what all your prerequisites are. And then you go on for 4 more years of optometry school.
So I want to get some of these dumb questions out of the way first. In high school, we had to dissect all kinds of weird stuff. Frogs, you name it. Did you ever have to dissect an eyeball?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like literally cut into them, look at all the parts?
Yeah, and we use cow eyes because they're big, much bigger than a human eye. So by cutting into that, you can see everything much easier, than if you were using a smaller animal's eye.
That explains cow mutilations.
That's it. Figured it
out. I always wondered because, well, for one, I don't see how people put contacts in. I have a hard time at touching my eyeball, but I have before, and it feels weird. So I've always wondered what one would feel like in your hand. I mean, is it something that you could actually like squeeze and pop it, or is it hard enough to where it's not gonna?
That is a brutal question.
Well, it's just it seems so fragile.
It's like a wet, thicker piece of saran wrap. Is a good analogy to what a soft contact feels like on your eye. You know, and it definitely is a learning curve of putting that in, especially for men.
Yeah.
You know, because women a lot of times are using makeup and plucking eyebrows, and they're used to working around their eyes. You give this to men, and a lot of guys that start wearing them are like 18-year-old boys, 17-year-old boys. I mean, they have there's nothing they've ever done like that before.
That was me. I did the same thing. It took me like 2 years to get used to it.
You wear contacts?
Every day.
But once you get them in, now you can probably put them in like a minute.
I can put them in without a mirror now.
Right.
I can just pop them in.
Do you use the throwaway ones?
I have the 30-day ones. But I like take them out and wash them and stuff like that. So yeah, they're throwaways.
Sleep with them?
Do you follow the recommended discard schedule?
Probably not.
Okay.
As I said that, I get something in my eye right now.
I can see some signs of infection from here.
Right. So I actually talked to Clint. This has been several months ago, and we just started doing this podcast. And I told him, I was like, I'd really like to have you on, and because the eyeball is just interesting to me. I'm assuming the eyeball is an organ.
It is.
And next to the brain would be my favorite thing, I guess. And I think maybe because it's so mysterious. There's a lot of stuff about the human brain we still don't know. But I feel like we have the eyeball figured out. But man, is there a lot of moving parts to the eyeball. I've probably done more homework for this episode than any other. I've been watching videos on the eyeball and everything else. But can you walk us through? So as soon as the light hits the eyeball, everything that has to take place before it, I guess the signal runs through the optical nerve to somewhere in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
So it hits the cornea.
Right. And even before that, it hits the tear layer. You know, we've got a layer of thin tears that coats the cornea.
Which is just what, water?
No, it's part mucus, part oil, and part water. Very complex, actually.
So like it's always there?
Yes. But if you ask anybody who has dry eye, you know, when it's not there, it really messes you up. It can be really uncomfortable. It can mess up your vision. And dry eye is very, very common. We see it every day. So you need that tear layer. Then it goes through the cornea, which is the front layer, but it in itself is really 5 different layers. And so this kind of goes with what you're saying about how complex it is. And then it goes through the hole in the iris, which is the pupil. The iris is the colored part of the eye. The pupil is the black part, and that's just because it's a hole. Light goes through that. Then it has to pass through our lens. We have a lens inside our eye. Once it gets through that, it goes through this big open cavity called the vitreous, and it's full of like a clear jelly. And then the light lands.
I feel like that's what would explode if you squeeze one.
the clear
vitreous jelly.
Well, after it passes through all that stuff, it lands on the retina, and the retina is made up of, man, I hope none of my optometry school professors are listening right now, but I think it's like 8 or 9 different layers of itself. And then the retina all meets up at the optic nerve and takes that message of light to the brain. So going back to what you said, you know, all the moving parts, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in all those different parts, and they do frequently. But on the other hand, you know, it's a beautiful illustration of the way God made us. You know, it's something that really could not have been made evolutionarily. This was designed, you know, and it's just a really cool design.
Which, speaking of the design of it, and I've always thought this is weird, when the picture hits, I guess you would call it the picture, hits the retina, it's upside down.
Yeah.
And then that signal goes from the optic nerve to the brain, and the brain, if it didn't flip it back, we would experience the world upside down. The brain is flipping the image so that we perceive everything like it's supposed to be.
That's right.
So, and maybe this will help explain, is it called nearsightedness and farsightedness?
Yep.
So I watched a video. As the light comes through the pupil, it hits, I guess, what's called a focal point. And if your eye is too big or too wide, that focal point actually happens before it hits, or maybe after, before or after it hits the retina, which either gives you nearsightedness or farsightedness. If the eyeball's too small, the focal point's really happening behind the retina. So you kind of want that sweet spot where the focal point hits the retina. Am I explaining that correctly?
I mean, they probably have some openings for optometry school, and I really
I was about to
sign
say.
you up because this is pretty impressive. Took me a couple of years of optometry school to learn what you just said. But you said it exactly right. Yeah, if the eye's too long, the image is trying to form an image in front of the retina, and it's blurry.
Mm.
And so what the glasses or contacts do is they move that image back to where it should be on the retina, makes it clear. If you're farsighted,
almost like it distorts the light, so the focal point happens at a different place than it really is happening.
yeah, just like if your camera is not in focus,
Yeah.
it's in focus somewhere, but it's not in focus on where you're trying to look at. Same with the eye when that's forming that image inside the eye. And then if you're farsighted, it's trying to form the image back behind where it should. And so the glasses or contacts bring it back and make it focus on the retina and clear.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
The eye is the craziest thing. Really is.
I told him this story. I'll tell it again for the listeners and for Skylar, and he may have forgot this, but I was working at Tumbleweed on the west side in college. And it was in the morning. And for whatever reason that day, I was in the first section, meaning the first table that walked in and sit down, it was going to be my table. Then it went to the next server, and so on and so forth. Well, I got sat, is what they call it. So these two people sit down, and it was a guy probably, I don't know, he was probably low to mid 30s, and he had a female with him, which I'm assuming was his mom. She was old enough to be his mom. I got their drinks. One of them ordered a salad, and I went back to get something on the salad, and we hadn't stocked something yet. I don't remember what it was. It may have been tomatoes or something. So I had to go into the walk-in, which is just for those of you who've never been in the back of a restaurant, a walk-in is just basically a huge refrigerator that you walk into. Well, Tumbleweed had theirs designed to where when you walked into the walk-in, there was another door that you opened, and that got you into the walk-in freezer. So if you're in the freezer with the door open, that cold air is just blowing out into the refrigerated part, kind of helps save energy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the light switch that turns both rooms on is outside the walk-in. So you've got to turn the light on, walk through the walk-in, open a door, and go into the freezer to get whatever you're getting. Couldn't have been tomatoes then because I had to go into the freezer to get it. Whatever. I get all the way into the freezer, and somebody thought it'd be funny to flick the light off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, inside that thing, there's no windows, no nothing. So, I mean, it is pitch dark. Well, there was a box on a shelf, and the cardboard was hanging out to where the point, was like sticking out. If I wasn't watching, I was going to run into it. And, of course, when it's dark, your eyes are wide open. Your pupil, I'm assuming, is as large as it'll ever be. And I take off walking, and I hit, dead center of my eyeball in the corner of that box. And my eye watered and watered and watered. I mean, it didn't matter how long I read. I was back there for probably 10 minutes trying to compose myself to get back out to my table. So anyway, I go back out to the table. Got tears running down my face. My eyes all red. And this guy could tell something was wrong. He said, what's wrong? And I explained what happened. He said, hold 1 second. And he gets up and walks out of the building, comes back in with a little case, I don't know, about yay big, about the size of a shoebox. He was an eye doctor.
No way.
He was an eye doctor for the military. And he said, let me check your eye out. And he got a tool out, started looking my eye and stuff over. But I may have forgot this because I didn't know what the hell a cornea was back then. But I think he said that I scratched my cornea. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Happens all the time. We see it all the time.
And I'm assuming that's something that just heals itself because it hurt for a couple of days. My eye was sore. It quit watering eventually, but I ain't so certain I didn't wake up the next morning with like some gunk in it from where I hit it. But within a couple of days, my sight was fine. I was back to normal. So
yeah, most of the time it heals pretty quickly. You have to worry about infection. A lot of the injuries we will see to the cornea would be like from a kid's fingernail or something that's dirty, like a stick, or something like that. And then you got to put them on antibiotics and things like that. If it doesn't get infected, most of the time it heals fine. But it can scar, and the cornea is clear. The cornea is like the windshield of the eye. And so if it scars and turns opaque, and that's in front of the pupil, you're going to see that scar for life.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it gets a little hairy sometimes.
All I know is, what luck does a guy have to where the second he scratches his cornea, a military eye doctor is the only guy in the building? I mean, they're the only table there. So I guess my luck isn't as bad as I thought. But another question I was going to ask you. My dad has this. My grandpa has this. Am I going to get this? And I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this right. Macular degeneration?
Macular degeneration.
What does that mean exactly?
In some people, there's a waste product. We talked about how light goes through the front of the eye, lands on the retina in the back. Well, in some people, there's a waste product that accumulates back there over time. And you get enough of that waste product, it can blur your vision. And macular degeneration is a very significant eye disease because it blurs your central vision. So whatever you're looking at, what you're trying to look at is what gets blurry. It can be very frustrating.
Oh, what you're directly looking at.
Yes.
Everything around it's fine, I guess.
Right. Very seldom do people lose total vision, but what they're trying to see in the center of their vision is what blurs. It's real common. I'm just guessing, my patients over 65, probably 15 to 20% of them have some signs of that.
Wow.
There is a familial component to it. Because they have it, you're more likely to have it, but it doesn't mean you will have it.
And there's no safeguards or preventative techniques
There's
to
some
keep
things
it from
There's some
happening.
things you can do. You can not smoke. Smoking is implicated in it. Sun exposure is implicated in it, UV. So if you wear sunglasses, that's a good idea. And then diet. So there are certain things found in our diet like lutein that add pigment to the retina and is protective against macular degeneration. If we see patients that have macular degeneration, we put them on a vitamin supplement that has those things. But I have some patients who don't have it yet but have a strong family history, and they'll go ahead and take those vitamins just preventatively.
Sounds like you need to start taking vitamins.
My problem with the vitamins, I always used to take a one a day. Well, I get kidney stones real bad. You can't hardly find just a daily vitamin that doesn't have calcium in it.
Oh, yeah.
So I quit taking them, but I guess I could buy up all the other, have 15 jars.
Yeah.
sitting
Eating
around.
once at a time.
Yeah.
If you can't take vitamins, eat spinach, kale, eggs. Those things have lutein in them.
All I heard was eggs. I don't know. Spinach is all right. I don't know. Kale doesn't have a lot of flavor,
You
but
can't fry
Broccoli,
it. though.
broccoli's good. Broccoli.
yeah. Why is it always the stuff that's good for you that just doesn't taste worth a dang? You
Right.
know,
Because it's not
Yeah.
deep fried. That's
right? Yeah. Yeah, you're right though. I do need to start eating healthier. That's for sure. So another thing which I had believe it or not, a fourth grade student asked me this. I did my student teaching at a school called Cynthia Heights on Highway 65 in Evansville. It's fourth grade classroom, and I don't know what put us on the subject, but not one of those kids had ever didn't realize that a pupil gets bigger and smaller. So I put them in pairs, had all of them get right up next to each other's face, had the lights on, and I said, stare at the other person's pupil, which is the black part in their eye. And when I flick this light off, that pupil's going to grow. Of course, they're like, oh, no, it won't, no, it won't. And I flipped the light off, and within a second, all of them started screaming. Like they were just so happy to see that it happened. I said, now, after you guys calm down, I'm going to turn the light back on, and that pupil will shrink down. Of course, I did turn the light back on, shrink down. They just thought that was the most amazing thing ever. But one of them asked me what in there is making that get smaller and larger, and I didn't know how to answer. I would assume there has to be some sort of muscle that's in there that's causing that to.
That's right. So there's two muscles. There's one that shrinks it and one that dilates it. And so whenever we use eye drops to try to dilate the pupil, we will stimulate the one that dilates and we'll paralyze the one that shrinks it. And that'll make the pupil get big.
How do you do that with a needle?
No, we just put an eye drop in the eye and it soaks through and gets to those muscles.
Yeah, because sometimes, I don't know if either mom or dad, I don't know where they go, and they always say they have to have their eyes dilated. But that stuff, I guess, lasts for a while. It doesn't just dilate it for a little bit. It stays dilated for a while, so they got to kind of watch driving. And
Right. The most common drop we use, it dilates people about 3 or 4 hours. And the reason we do that is, if I'm trying to examine you and I need to see the back of the eye, the retina, all those other structures we talked about, And if I have to look through your small pupil, it's like looking through a keyhole to tell what's in a room. I can't see it very well. If I can dilate that and make that pupil bigger, then it's like opening up the door. You know, you can tell what's in that room. So we dilate a lot of patients if they have diabetes, glaucoma, cataracts, everybody over 65, and anybody else who has certain complaints, we'll dilate them. It's not fun. A lot of them don't like it.
Yeah.
But it's the only way I can really get a good look back there.
Isn't that when you have to wear the big black glasses with the
Right.
shades on the side?
Right. And that's because when you go outside, that pupil, usually when you go in the light, the pupil shrinks. But if you've had those drops, it's not going to shrink. So it's really, really bright for a couple hours after you're dilated.
So it's
Which
almost
could
like
damage your eye.
Right.
If you stare up at the sun or something, if your eye's been dilated.
it'd be like if you get up in the middle of the night to go get some water and you got a little night vision, like during the day though. That would hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Turning the lights on when you go to the bathroom at night, probably pretty close to that.
Yeah.
That first little instinct.
Or like when you come out of the movie theater.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's real bright and sunny outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay, another question. My father-in-law gets these. I'm not really sure what they are. What's a sty?
A sty is a clogged gland in the eyelid. The eyelids have a lot of glands, and those glands secrete the portions of the tears, like we talked about before. The tears aren't just water, they're also mucus and oil. And there's glands in the eyelid that secrete those. Well, if a gland gets clogged, the secretion is still being made, but it can't get out, so it swells up in there. It's almost like a little pimple, on your eyelid.
Mm.
And some people are just more prone to have those than other people.
Once you get them, what's the process of getting rid of them?
Your best friend is heat, because what's in there, if it's the secretion, if you let it get cool, then it'll solidify. Keep it hot, it's going to be real runny and much more likely to drain out. So we have people put like a warm compress on their eyelid, and usually that just makes them drain out and it's fine. Now, occasionally they'll get infected, and you'll have to put somebody on antibiotics, but most of the time heat takes care of it.
Yeah, I had one time. That was it.
A sty?
Mm-hmm. It was really little. It was like towards the corner of my eye, and like 2 or 3 days later, it was gone. I don't know.
They can be random. People can just get one in a blue moon,
Yeah.
Or some people just have them chronically, and it's kind of a pain. But I've seen them get infected so bad it made the person's eye swell totally shut.
Oh, man.
So,
Yeah, that's no good.
no.
Have your kids ever had pink eye?
Yeah.
Finley woke up. I don't know. It may have been this year, maybe been last year, and immediately like started screaming. Her eyes were matted completely shut. I mean, that's scary to a
Yeah.
kid. You wake up, you can't open your eyes. It freaks you out. But I don't know what causes pink eye, but it's nasty.
Usually in kids, it's bacteria. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't know about your kids. My kids aren't the most hygienic. They're getting better now because they're getting older. But I mean, it's nothing to just rub dirt and whatever they find all over their bodies. So.
Oh, yeah. Mine are the same way. Literally on the way to the show, Abby wrote me. I won't use the word she actually wrote, but said Huck just crapped in the yard. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, we should be lucky that pink eye's all they have.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that's always, I wouldn't say amazed me, but I guess it does amaze me, is color blindness. So I have some people in my family with, I think, is what's called a red-green deficiency, which that's one thing I was going to have you pull up, which we won't do it, but I forget what the test is called, but it's basically just it's a circle with a bunch of colored circles in it, and there might be like a number 3 in there, and that number 3 will just be a shade different green than the circles around it.
Mm-hmm.
And most people can see that number, but if you have, I guess, what's called a red-green deficiency, you can't distinguish the two colors, and you don't see the number there.
Mm-hmm.
So what causes color blindness, I guess? Would that be I guess there could be all kinds of things going wrong with the eye that would cause color blindness. But
the vast majority of the time it's genetic, and it's really fascinating. But it's on the X chromosome, and it's recessive. So
that's good.
It takes a little bit of genetic nerding out to totally understand it. But what happens is women, since they have 2 X chromosomes, they would have to have both of them have the color blindness gene in order for them to be colorblind. So like less than 1% of women are colorblind. But men, we get an X and a Y, right?
Mm.
So all we got to get is the 1.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but it's more like 8 to 10% of men have some sort of color deficiency.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating. Yeah, and there's red, green, there's blue, yellow color deficiencies. You can also get color deficiency from like medication. Certain medications can do that, but the vast majority are genetic. And if you start talking, if you see a colorblind kid, you talk to the mom, she's like, yeah, his dad's colorblind or his grandpa is or whatever.
Huh.
My grandpa was colorblind, like, I guess no colors, just shades of gray. And he would end up with different colored socks on a lot of the times, but I think that would absolutely suck to not be able to see any colors.
He might have been born before they colorized movies. Maybe that's why. Maybe like
Yeah, that's true.
first half of Wizard of
Wizard of
Oz.
Oz. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just, that color blindness is strange. Like, I mean, you would almost have to memorize, and I think that's the reason that they do stoplights the way they do. I don't know if it's the green is always on bottom or green's always on top.
Green's on
that
the
way,
bottom, I think.
colorblind people know whichever light's lit up, what color that light is.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But,
Yeah, and I mean, most of them, it doesn't affect their life. There are some things they won't be able to do, like you're not going to be an electrician if you're
Yeah.
color deficient because you got to see all those colored wires.
right.
You're not going to be an airline pilot because colors, are important to them. But other than that, color deficient people are going to be fine. They might need help picking out their tie to match their shirt, but
While you're here, I'm going to hopefully you've heard of these, and you can solve this debate once and for all. There's a ton of videos online. I'm sure you guys, you've probably seen them. I don't know how much time you spend online, but I think the glasses are called either Chroma or N-Chroma.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of videos of people that were colorblind, and they buy these sunglasses for these people. And, they've got a bunch of balloons blown up, or everybody's wearing cool colors, and they put them on. And then, of course, people start tearing up like, oh, my God, this is what you guys have been seeing your whole life.
Yeah, my dad's wife, her grandson is colorblind, and they got him some for Christmas last year.
And it worked.
Yeah, oh yeah, he started crying right there.
'Cause it's so strange, though, because a lot, if you read about it online, a lot of, very smart people are saying that it's impossible.
He said there were reds were more vivid, very more vivid for him, and like I don't remember if he could see like yellow at all, and he could see like he could tell it was yellow, but it wasn't like probably what we see as yellow. Maybe I don't know how all it works, but
Have you ever heard of these glasses?
I have, yeah.
Do they work?
I don't know.
Don't know. You can see color, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I put
these,
them on.
These videos look real. I mean, people are literally breaking down in tears,
Yeah.
and they're expensive. They're like $300-400.
Mhm.
But there's all kinds of scientists and eye doctors saying that you can't fix color blindness with a pair of glasses.
I don't think
They're-
it fixes
they're
it.
fake.
I think that it just enhances because like when I put them on, everything was way more vivid, for sure. Like 100%, like that orange behind you would be way more orange. But I'm not colorblind.
Another
So-
weird question. I may have seen this. I'm pretty sure I saw it on a TV show, and it was season 1 of Fargo. You guys watch Fargo?
I've seen it.
I've seen the movie. I haven't seen the show.
It's a great show, but season 1, the let's call him a crazy guy, serial killer, madman, is Billy Bob Thornton, and he makes a comment in the movie, maybe twice. He mentions it once, and then who he says it to is trying to figure out the answer to it. But I think he asks him the question: "Is why is it that humans can see more shades of green than any other color?" I guess later on you find out that it's because early on in human life, we had to see predators coming, which, the world is mainly outdoors is composed of all kinds of different shades of green. So we had to learn to distinguish all those colors to see things moving in the brush. I always wonder if that was true. If we can see more shades of green than any other color. I don't know if that's out of your element or
These
not.
questions are getting progressively harder.
We're tallying these too, by the way, just to see.
Man, I'm
Right.
starting to sweat over here.
Oh, I'm definitely sweating.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, which you know how it is. It's a TV show, so I just that always stuck in my mind. I always wondered if that was true. I mean, I guess there's.
I mean,
a
I
way
could
you can-
always. I mean, we have the power of the Google.
That's
machine.
true.
I could always pull it up.
Well, hey, we'll be good place to stop and take a quick break here from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to engagement rings, the first thing that probably comes to mind is expensive. And why wouldn't it? 3 months' wages on a ring, That's crazy. And let's be honest, you know nothing about diamonds. It's all intimidating. I'm Cody Gottman, owner of HD Bean Jewelers, and I want to change how you feel about buying that engagement ring. I stock in-style engagement rings that are at a great price, and we put the extra effort in to help you understand what you're buying. We even offer service after the sale, sizing, a lifetime warranty, and a convenient cleaning plan that can't be beat. Thinking about a custom engagement ring? We can handle that. All our custom rings are built start to finish in-house, and you get to work with a professional jeweler, not some salesperson. If you're ready for a new way to buy an engagement ring, stop by our showroom, downtown Carmi, or give me a call, 618-382-8170. I can't wait to be your jeweler.
All right, we are back. Thanks to our sponsor for that commercial. We've talked about macular degeneration, some other stuff. How about glaucoma? What in the world is that? You hear it all the time.
Yeah, glaucoma is an eye disease where usually the eye pressure gets too high. There's a pressure inside the eye. If there wasn't, it would deflate, right? So there's a pressure inside it. Usually that gets too high and it damages the optic nerve, which leaves the back of the eye. And over time, that can cause loss of peripheral vision. So the scary thing about glaucoma is you can't feel it. You don't know your pressure's high, and you don't know you're losing peripheral vision until you've lost a significant amount. So that's why part of just our routine eye exam every year is to just check people's eye pressure.
So glaucoma is the opposite of the other one we were talking about. It messes up not directly what you're staring at, it's your
peripheral, right?
Stuff around it.
And I have a fair amount of patients with both macular degeneration and glaucoma, and that can really be a challenge.
Yeah, I always, I don't know. You just got to tip your hat to blind people. I don't see how they do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. They can even get around not being able to see, but it's, I don't know what I would do without my eyesight.
It's definitely not something we want to take for granted.
Yeah, definitely. Cataracts. What's cataracts?
We are born with a lens inside our eye and it's clear. And with time, it starts to kind of yellow. And then eventually, usually around 65, it starts to get dark enough that it's blocking some of the light from getting through it and getting to the back of the eye. And it's almost like you're looking through like a filter, wax paper or a filter. Yeah. Eventually it gets bad enough that they will do cataract surgery and remove that lens and put an implant back in its place made of acrylic.
I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, really common.
I didn't even realize you could cut into an eye and repair it.
Yeah, if you live long enough, you will have cataract surgery in your lifetime.
No matter what.
It kind of reminds me of headlights. Old cars.
Yeah, take some toothpaste to them and clean them off a little bit.
They always get that yellow, like nasty film on them.
Yeah,
that you just can't seem to get off.
Yeah, people think that cataracts are like a scum or film on the front, but it's really not. It's actually it is like a film, but it's inside the eye. So they've got to take that lens out.
I would think that as that lens starts to turn color, that would change the way you're perceiving color.
It does,
it
does, but it happens so gradually you don't know what's happening. My grandpa had one eye done, one eye had cataract surgery, and the other one still had a cataract. He said, I can paint this room from white to brown. White, brown.
Wow. Did they ever go in and fix his other one?
They did. Yep. But
now, that kind of stuff you don't do.
We do the co-management. So we have a surgeon that comes to our office and does the pre-operative work, and then he operates, and then I see the patient the day after, the week after, and the month after.
So after eye surgery, I'm assuming they're going to have to wear an eye patch. Take it easy.
No patch.
Really?
No patch. They have to use drops. They are on limited physical activity for a week afterwards, but they can drive and they can live normal life. It's amazing. Used to be, 50 years ago, these people were laying in the hospital overnight with sandbags on the side of their head because they couldn't move their head after cataract surgery. And now I've got patients playing golf the 2 days after their surgery. So it's fascinating how far we've come.
Oh, yeah. How about diabetic bleeding?
See that all the time. Diabetes can make the blood vessels leaky. And so the blood vessels in the back of the eye can leak out blood. And we'll see that when we look into the back of the eye. That can cause all kinds of problems. So we see that very, very commonly.
So when this has happened before. Matter of fact, I think Abby came and seen you last year for this. She just woke up and one side of her eye was just extremely red, almost like a blood vessel busted or something. I guess you probably see that a lot too. Just someone will wake up and have no explanation why their eye is real red. It's not pink eye. It's just,
Right.
I guess, a ruptured blood vessel.
It is. It's a ruptured blood vessel in the white part of the eye. And there's like a clear membrane over the outside of the white part of the eye. It's almost like a layer of saran wrap runs all across the outside. So if a blood vessel bursts, the blood can't get out. It's stuck behind that.
You have to poke a hole in it and relieve it.
Nope.
Jesus.
Just let it.
It'll reabsorb just like a bruise does. Basically, it's a bruise, and it will reabsorb into the eye. But you do have to make sure that can happen from high blood pressure. So sometimes people will come in and they don't know they have high blood pressure, and that's the first sign of that. So we always check their blood pressure. And if they have them repeatedly and recurrently and we can't find a reason, then sometimes we run some blood tests and just make sure their blood chemistry is okay.
See, there's another reason you should go see your eye doctor frequently, because you may spot something that's going on elsewhere in the body.
Yeah, and it happens all the time. I mean, the eye is the only place where you can look inside the body without cutting somebody open. I can see blood vessels in there. We have diagnosed people with high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, MS, all kinds of different things.
That's a weird way to put it. I never thought of that, and I'm not gonna sleep well tonight thinking about that.
That you can look in,
You can see
an eye doctor
inside
can see.
something. Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to ask that. We were going to get to like the tools you use, but I'm assuming it's because, like, if I look at your pupil, to me it doesn't look like there's a hole there. It just looks like a black part of your eye, but that's actually a hole,
It's a hole.
and that's
Yeah.
what you're looking in.
Yes. So if you think about when you see a deer or a coon or a cat at night with your headlights, you know how their eyes reflect back?
Mm-hmm.
That's because they have a reflective lining inside, and the light you're shining in there is coming back at you.
It's hitting the back of their eyeball
Yes.
and bouncing back at me.
That's right.
So why do they have a reflective lining? Is there a purpose for that?
They're nocturnal animals.
Oh.
So that helps them see better, helps them gather more light. So they can see
okay.
better at night. So those animals can see a lot better at night than we can. It doesn't take as much light for them.
I didn't expect to come here and learn today.
Oh yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
I love it.
Clint brought this up on break, and I want him to talk about it. I didn't know this, but you can get moles on your eye.
You can. Really anywhere. You can get a mole on the white part of your eye. You can get a mole on your iris. So if somebody had a blue eye, they can have a little dark spot there. But more frequently, we see them in the back of the eye. And people don't know they have them. And I'll tell them, hey, you got a mole inside your eye. And they're like, inside my eye? But we have a camera, a retinal camera. We can take a picture of that and show them, track them. 99% of the time, probably higher than that, they're benign and fine. But you still want to keep an eye on them and make sure they don't change over time, just like any mole on your skin.
So you could technically have eye cancer then if it was like a cancerous mole in your eye?
You could, which we've seen a handful of times over the years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long you been doing this?
16 years.
I bet you've seen a lot in 16 years.
I have, yeah. And I'm still learning, still learning. Still
What?
seeing new things, new medicines coming out and new products come out. So
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the craziest eye injury you've seen is?
I've seen some really interesting ones. One, probably the toughest lady I've ever seen. She was in her 80s, and she had bent down. She was using a vacuum, and it was one of those vacuums where it was like a cylinder kind of came up, and she bent down, and that hit her in the eye.
While it was on?
No, but it basically ruptured her eye, and all the contents of her eye basically came out onto her cheek. And her son brought her into the office and was like, hey, she was fine. She's walking around. Said it hurt, but she wasn't crying or anything like that. And I looked at her and I said, we got to get you to the hospital. Called an ambulance, sent her. She lost her eye. But yeah, she was
So
tough.
it's just dangling there?
Pretty much.
Oh,
Pretty
man.
much. And then I saw a lady, this one had a much, much better outcome, but she had reached for what she thought were her artificial teardrops, but it was super glue.
Oh.
And so she glued her eyelashes together. And by the time she got to me, I mean, it had hardened.
Yeah.
Luckily, only one eye. It had hardened, and that was like scraping on her eye. So we got these little scissors and cut all of her eyelashes off and dug those little shards of super glue out and she was fine. She was embarrassed, but she was fine.
Wow. Yeah, that would be awful. That's something like Steve-O or John Knoxville would do.
Yeah.
But, oh, yeah, that'd be bad.
Kids at home, don't try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned that it's possible to deflate an eye. Have you ever seen a deflated eye?
Well, that would be kind of like what happened to that lady with the vacuum. You know, if you cut the eye open, then the pressure runs out. That's really the only way that it's going to deflate with some kind of injury.
What was the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? And there was a boy in the movie that was trying to convince him that they were in a movie. Last Action
Hero.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Last Action Hero?
Is it kind of older?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, okay, yeah, I have, yeah.
It's somehow this boy gets sucked into this movie world, and he's trying to convince them all they're in a movie. And they even go to a video store. He's like, let's go find the Terminator. You'll see yourself. And, of course, they get there, and it's Sylvester Stallone as the Terminator. But anyway, in that movie, the bad guy had a glass eye. Or I don't know if they're actually glass, a fake eye. And I remember as a little kid thinking it would be, which is stupid to think this, but I remember thinking it'd be cool to have a glass eye because this guy could switch it out. He had like a 8-ball he could put in or a cat's eye or whatever. But now that I'm older and I think about it, what keeps that from falling out? I mean, if you have to is it really glass, first of all? Is it a glass eye?
No, it's made of some type of resin, but it's actually not round. Usually it's like a big, almost mushroom shape.
So once you get in there, they kind of just turn it a little bit, and that keeps it in.
Yeah, whenever they remove someone's eye, you know, they'll put a thing in there so it's not just this empty hole. So you're not putting a round ball in there. You're putting something it's more like a convex.
Yeah, so it shapes more with your eyelids than the actual.
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm assuming there's people out there in the whole industry of this that try to match your eyeball with a resin one. So
I actually watched a video. I was real bored one night on the internet and watched a video painting. This guy was painting eyes. Like, you would send in a picture of your eye like really close, and he would like mimic as close as he could to like a fake eye. It was pretty cool actually.
They're artists. They're terrific.
He was doing even like the small, like very minute details of like the iris and like the color of your eye, and like if people had blue with a little bit of like green to them, like he was matching everything. It was pretty cool.
Well, if you like get up, I mean, I don't get up in a lot of people's faces all the time. A lot of times my kids will get up my face, but if you really look at, I guess it's the iris, that's the colored part. It's just the neatest looking thing. It almost looks like there's just a lot of like hairs or strands or something in it. Just, I don't know. We'll go on to something else. I feel like we've bored people enough with the eyeball, but
I'm just intrigued with the whole thing though.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's a real neat organ. But back to you, Clint. So you said you've been doing this 16 years. I know you married a Carmi girl. You weren't originally from Carmi. But I feel like now that you're here and you've been here a long time, you've gotten yourself into a lot of, I don't know, I guess you'd call them extracurricular activities. I know you're a member of the Kiwanis. We're both on the chamber board together, at least for now. I think I'm done.
Me too.
A couple months. You're out in a couple months. What else are you into?
Yeah, Carmi has been great to me. I mean, has welcomed me, and part of that was because my wife and her family. But from day one, you know, I have loved this community, and yeah, so Kiwanis was a big part of what I wanted to do, just to try to be a part of the community and give back and try to make Carmi a better place. And it's been a great thing. I'm past president of that, past president of the chamber.
How long you been a Kiwanis member?
16 years. Yeah.
So you started as soon as you got here.
I did. Yeah.
Dumb question, and hopefully they don't get on to if you don't know this. What is a Kiwanis? So you have you got elks and bears and eagles. I don't even.
You think a Kiwanis is an animal?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. I know what all the others are. I don't even know what a Kiwanis is.
Oh, I'm not sure.
It's a great question. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know if anybody knows.
Continue. I'll figure it out.
Google it. But so you did that for 16 years and still doing it, and
that's great. I mean, we help with Corn Day and give back to the community, and it's a great group of people. And the chamber's important. Kelly Northcott, they're the executive director now, is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, she is.
So I just really am encouraged by, and Carmi has always been this way. Like, people just are generous, not just with their money, but with their time, and give back to their community. And it's such a good place to live. The thing I'm probably most involved with now is the CEO program in the White County school system.
I think that's a great deal because, yes, I know you need to know reading and writing and arithmetic and all that, but that program, I think, helps prepare them more for reality when they get out. And is the CEO program like basically teaching them how a business works and how to run a business? Is that kind of what they do?
It is, and not only teaching them, but they're doing it.
Yeah, they're making them come up with a business plan.
That's right. I tell that story all the time. I'll never forget when I went to buy my optometry practice. I had a meeting with the bank, and they said, well, we'll just need to see your business plan. And I remember going back and sitting in my car thinking, what's a business plan? Well, these high school seniors will write 2 business plans themselves in CEO before they graduate high school. And they make contacts with local bankers and accountants and business people, and it just puts them so far ahead if they want to do anything entrepreneurial. And it also teaches them how to shake hands, have a conversation, look you in the eye, public speaking, just skills you will use the rest of your life.
And I'm sure they're going to hit, reality checks where, well, I'll give you, for instance, one of the girls has a peanut butter business. Well, to do that, you got to have a kitchen that's inspected by the health department. So I think it's exposing them at an early age, all the red tape and a lot of the red tape needs to be there. I mean, obviously you can't just open up a restaurant and just start serving food to people with, a nasty facility and no place to wash your hands. I mean, that red tape needs to be there, but it's not as easy as when I was in high school, I didn't know all these things. So I think it's great that they're learning it at an early age and realizing that it's a lot of work to do that kind of stuff.
And what better way to learn than do it yourself? Yep. And if they fail, it's a safe environment to fail in. Mm-hmm. We say that all the time. Much better to fail when you're 17 and in CEO than when you're 40 and lose your house.
$70,000 in debt.
Exactly. Let's learn these lessons at an early age when you're in a safe environment to fail.
Yeah, I did a Zoom call with them once. Tracy, what's the teacher's name?
Who's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, she does a good job. She called me one day and she's like, is there any way you can do a Zoom call with these guys and just, talk about, your business and, things you face, yada, yada, yada. And I remember telling a story. This guy come into my office, and as weird as it sounds, his last name was Bird. And he flies those ultralight planes. They're like a go-kart with wings on them. And he flew it all summer, and he said this particular day he had planned on this was going to be his last flight. So after he landed this thing, he was going to store it for the winter or whatever. But he said he got into the habit of when he would come into the runway, he would reach back and turn his fuel line off, land the plane, and then let the fuel burn out of the fuel line before he would store it for the winter. So he said he'd already reached back there and turned the fuel line off, and he got to look, and he said it was a perfect day. Beautiful skies, sun was setting, perfect weather. He thought, heck with it. It's my last night. I'll fly around a little longer. Well, he forgot to reach back there and flick that fuel switch. So he, gains altitude again, and then the engine dies. So now what do? Well, most people, without the experience, their immediate reaction is to pull up on that, I don't know what you'd call it, a joystick or whatever. And that's the worst thing you can do, because now it'll stall and you'll literally fall out of the sky to your death. He said, I was calm. I was like, well, so what do you do? I mean, I didn't know. What do you do when your engine dies in the middle of the air? He said, you point it down so that you literally come at an angle, and you want to go almost the faster the better towards the ground. And when you get, so far above the ground, you start pulling back on it, and that'll create enough lift to slow you down, and you can kind of land it. But he said that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because now if something ever happens, I've lived through that experience, and I know, he said, after that happened, anytime he's up flying, he is constantly looking around thinking if something goes wrong, I can land here, I can land here, I can't land here, I can land here, and he's more aware of his surroundings because that event happened. And I told them that story because a lot of times mistakes are a good thing because you learn from them and you experience it so that when that mistake happens again, you know how to correct it. And, you know, for instance, the worst thing that can happen in a restaurant in the middle of a rush, it seems like things always happen when you're busy. It's never going to happen when you're slow. But when they do happen when you're slow, remember that, because next time it happens, it's probably going to be busy and you'll know how to correct the problem. But that was one story I told him. I just thought it was helpful to him. But yeah, it's a cool program. And it seems like the group gets bigger every year.
I think we have 9 this year, you know, and that's a good amount. We don't meet in school. The students meet in local businesses. And if you get too many, it's hard to find places to meet that have a parking lot that big and so on. You know, so 9's a good number.
Is it just seniors?
Yes.
Seniors only.
Yep. Carmi and North City. They're meeting at my office in the morning, matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, 7:30.
So how did you get involved in the CEO? I mean, are they just calling and say, hey, you want to help us out with it? I mean, is it a school-sponsored deal or it's not a school-sponsored deal?
It is a school. I don't know if you would call it sponsored. It's not paid for by tax money. It's paid for by the business community. So we have investors, and each business investor signs up to give $1,000 a year for 3 years. And that's how we pay Tracy, and that's how we pay for the program. What was the first part of your question?
I don't even remember. I liked the answer so well, I forgot what I asked.
Sorry.
I can't rewind, so I'm not.
Well, I didn't know if it was a school-sponsored deal, if it was outside of school, but you already answered that. But
it's for credit, and in some places you can get college credit for it. It's a dual credit class. But yeah, it's sponsored, completely paid for by the business community.
I wonder if any of them, how many years have they been doing it? Do you know?
I think this is the 7th year.
I wonder if any of the businesses because they have to actually, not only got to come up with the business plan, do they have to do it also?
Yeah.
Like they can't just say, hey, I'm going to sell, here's a peanut butter business plan turned in. They have to actually make the peanut butter, sell the peanut butter, label the peanut butter properly.
Yeah, we have a trade show at the end of the year, and they're out there, and they got to own it.
I wonder if any of them are still in the business that they started in CEO.
There are a couple, and I don't want to say names because I might be wrong, but there are a couple who still kind of have those side businesses. It's not been going long enough yet for us to see like a brick and mortar store yet. A lot of these kids are still in college and things like that. But I do think it's going to, and it already is, paying dividends. You know, I've even seen the business community just get kind of reinvigorated by having these kids come tour. Kids talk about driving past businesses in town for 18 years and not knowing what was in there. And then they get to go behind the curtain and see what it is. It turns out there's some cool stuff that happens right here in White County.
Yeah.
So our hope is that not only does it teach these kids some of those things, but that they will want to stay in White County.
Yeah.
And not move away whenever they get done with their school.
Yeah, we need more bright minds to stick around. It seems like everybody always wants to leave and go elsewhere.
Yeah, sometimes, but I'll tell you what, and I'm raising my family here, and it's a great place to raise your family.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You wouldn't find me in a city right now for anything.
It seems like they're just getting more chaotic.
They are. We've got a good school system. It's a safe community. It's a tight-knit community, so I think it's a great place to come back to.
Yep. That's why
Absolutely.
I'm here.
And we are glad to have you.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had for him. We really appreciate you coming in. Unless you got any other clubs you're in. I know you said Kiwanis, CEO. Corn Day's going to happen, right?
We're gonna have Corn Day.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
I'm sure that busted your bubbles last year, having to cancel it.
Yeah, it's the first year in almost 90 years.
Yeah.
We didn't have a Corn Day. It's hard. So we're gonna have it twice as good this year.
Perfect.
Who's the entertainment? Or have we even announced that yet?
No, it is. It's
Head
Confederate
East.
Railroad, isn't it?
Head East is
night.
Friday and Confederate Railroad Saturday.
Yeah.
I'll be there both nights.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Oh, by the way, Kiwanis, figured out what it meant. So the word Kiwanis, it's not an animal like you thought. It's the word Kiwanis was coined from an American Indian expression, I'm not even going to try, but which means we trade. So Kiwanis is an American Indian word for we trade. So that's why the motto for Kiwanis became we build, and so on and so forth. So
I hope they don't kick me out of the club.
Yeah,
since
now we know.
Since I didn't know that.
hey, now you know now. So
Right, that's right.
They won't. Well, we appreciate all you do for the community. That's one of the reasons me and Skylar started this. We just felt like, you know, like you. You have this beautiful business over here, and you're almost limited to newspaper ads, Facebook advertising, 30-second or a minute radio advertising, and people can't get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And now they've sit here and listen to you carry on an hour-long conversation. We just felt like there's a lot going on in this town, and nobody knows. I shouldn't say nobody knows, but there's a lot of people that don't really know what's going on. So I feel like having people come on the show makes you seem more human.
Yeah.
And would make people want to come and visit your business more.
Yeah, I feel
that's
like
kind of why we started the Carmi Cast.
Like there's a need for it, and I appreciate you guys doing it, and wish you best of luck with it.
thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so don't forget that's Taylor Eye Care. It's over on 1684 Falcon Avenue. It's what we call Industrial Park, over by, I guess, True Value, Taco Factory, OFA, Egyptian Health Department. Phone number there is 382-4683. I'm assuming you guys probably have a Facebook page.
We do.
Website. But just because you have good eyesight doesn't mean you shouldn't go see an eye doctor.
Check yearly, see clearly.
Hey, there we go. That's the name of the episode.
And I'm assuming you guys see little kids too. There's nothing wrong with bringing little kids in, making sure everything's good to go with them.
Yeah, there's actually a program by the American Optometric Association where we see kids 6 months to 12 months for free as a screening, just to make sure there's nothing
Nice.
congenital going on.
So, and they also sell sunglasses, and they don't have to be prescription, but they do prescription sunglasses as well. So it's not just a eye doctor's office. But other than that, I have nothing else. Clint, appreciate you coming on. And guys, thanks for tuning in. We hope to do another episode next week. I'm waiting on the guest to get back with me, but we'll keep you posted. Follow us on Facebook. Visit us at carmicast.com. Thanks for tuning in.